Dear Santa, please send me a dad. One little girl's Christmas wish found its way to a man who didn't believe in hope. Until now. Winter settled over Crescent City like a quiet ache. 6-year-old Leah Marin hummed carols in a one-room apartment above a laundromat, her small chest rising with labored breaths. Her mother, Sofia, worked long hours at Ashborne Estate, a sprawling mansion where silence lived louder than laughter. She polished chandeliers no one noticed and dusted books no one read, all to afford her daughter's medicine. Leah wanted to help. So she wrote Santa a letter and dropped it into the estate's red holiday mailbox, certain it would reach the North Pole. Instead, it landed in the hands of Fletcher Ashborne, a billionaire who'd built walls so high even he couldn't see over them. When he read her words, something shifted. He hadn't felt needed in years. Maybe that was about to change. Welcome to Life in Stories. If you love emotional stories that hit the heart and stay with you, you're in the right place. Make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Your support helps every story come alive. Winter descended on Crescent City like a held breath, sharp, still, unforgiving. The kind of cold that crept through window panes and settled into bones. Snow gathered in quiet drifts along empty sidewalks, and streetlights flickered on earlier each evening, casting long shadows across a city that moved too fast to notice its own loneliness. Inside the towering walls of Ashborne Estate, warmth was abundant but hollow. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Fireplaces roared in rooms no one entered. The temperature was always perfect, the silence always complete. It was a fortress of comfort, built for a family that didn't exist, inhabited by a single man who preferred it that way. Miles across town, above a laundromat that hummed through the night, a different kind of warmth existed. It came from a hot plate boiling rice, from a worn blanket shared between mother and daughter, from the soft hum of Christmas songs sung by a 6-year-old who believed in magic, even when the world gave her little reason to. Leah Marin sat cross-legged on the floor, coloring with crayons that had lost their wrappers months ago. Her breath came in shallow wheezes, each exhale a quiet reminder that winter was her enemy. The inhaler on the windowsill was half empty. Her mother had been rationing it for days. Sofia Marin stood at the kitchen counter, back aching, fingers red from scrubbing floors that weren't hers. She worked at Ashborne Estate, a place so grand it felt like another world entirely. She polished banisters no one touched, dusted portraits of people who existed only in frames, and vacuumed carpets that never showed footprints. The pay was steady but never enough, not for rent, not for medicine, not for the kind of life she wanted to give Leah. Still, every morning, she tied her hair back, kissed her daughter's forehead, and whispered the same promise. "We're going to be okay, honey." Promises were easier to give than keep. Leah didn't ask for much. She never complained about the cramped apartment, or the second-hand clothes, or the fact that her birthday cake last year was a single cupcake with a candle they reused from the year before. But she noticed things. She noticed how her mother's smile faded the moment she thought Leah wasn't looking. She noticed the unpaid bills stacked beside the microwave. She noticed that other kids had fathers who carried them on their shoulders and mothers who didn't look so tired. One evening, after Sofia left for her night shift, Leah pressed her face to the frosted window and watched families walk by below. A father held his daughter's hand while she pointed at holiday lights. A mother laughed as her son threw snowballs. They looked warm. They looked whole. Leah pulled out a piece of pink notebook paper and a pencil worn down to a nub. She thought carefully, tongue poking out in concentration, then began to write in her careful, crooked letters. "Dear Santa, please send me a dad. Mommy is always tired and she never gets help. We don't need toys, just someone who loves us. Love, Leah Marin." Beneath the words, she drew 3 stick figures. A tall woman with a bun, a small girl with curly hair, and between them a dotted outline, a space left open, waiting to be filled. She folded the letter 4 times, tucked it into her coat pocket, and waited. The next morning, Sofia walked Leah to school before heading to the estate. Leah lagged behind as they passed the iron gates, her eyes landing on the large red mailbox positioned near the entrance. It was labeled Holiday Mailbox, deliveries collected daily. But to Leah, red boxes meant one thing: Santa. She glanced at her mother's back, then quickly pulled the folded letter from her pocket and slipped it through the slot. Her lips moved in a whisper. "Please find us, Santa." Then she ran to catch up, her breath fogging the cold air, her heart light with hope. Inside Ashborne Estate, Fletcher Ashborne sat at his desk on the 3rd floor, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city like a painting he never looked at. 35, impeccably dressed, sharp-eyed and sharper-minded, he had built an empire through logic, precision, and an impressive ability to never need anyone. His assistant had left a stack of holiday cards on his desk, corporate pleasantries from partners, investors, and people who wanted something from him. He flipped through them mechanically, gold seals, printed signatures, empty sentiment. Then something pink slipped out from between 2 embossed envelopes. He frowned, unfolded it, childlike handwriting, uneven letters. "Dear Santa, please send me a dad." Fletcher froze. He read it again, slowly. "Mommy is always tired, and she never gets help. We don't need toys, just someone who loves us." His throat tightened. He turned the paper over, a drawing, 3 figures, a woman, a child, and a 3rd space, dotted lines forming the outline of someone who wasn't there yet. Fletcher set the letter down, hands unsteady. He hadn't thought about the word dad in years, not since he was 16, standing in a hospital hallway, watching his father's heartbeat flatten into a single, endless tone. He had spent the last decade convincing himself that needing anyone was a weakness, so why did this letter feel like a fist closing around his chest? He stared at the drawing, at the hopeful, careful lines, at the empty space waiting to be filled. Outside, snow began to fall. Fletcher whispered into the silence of his office, voice low and rough. "Leah, Sofia, I need to know more." Fletcher Ashborne had spent the better part of a decade perfecting the art of not seeing people. He saw numbers, projections, quarterly reports. He saw profit margins and risk assessments, but people, their faces, their struggles, their quiet desperation, those he had trained himself to overlook. Until now. The pink letter sat in the top drawer of his desk, folded carefully, edges already softening from how many times he'd unfolded and refolded it. He told himself it was curiosity, nothing more. A strange anomaly in his otherwise predictable routine. But every morning when he arrived at the estate, his eyes searched the halls for her. Sofia Maren. He had seen her before, of course. She'd worked at Ashborne Estate for nearly 2 years, but he had never truly looked at her. Now he noticed everything, the way she moved through rooms like a ghost, efficient and invisible, the way she carried herself with quiet dignity despite the exhaustion written in every line of her posture, the way her hands, red and chapped, never stopped moving, wiping, folding, straightening, polishing. She was always the first to arrive and among the last to leave. She never complained, never asked for anything, and every day at exactly 4:30 she disappeared like clockwork. Fletcher found himself wondering about the little girl. Leah, 6 years old with chronic asthma and a belief in Santa strong enough to write a letter asking for a father. What did she look like? Did she have her mother's quiet resilience? Did she know how hard Sofia worked just to keep them afloat? The questions unsettled him. On Tuesday morning, Fletcher summoned his head of operations. "The staff lounge," he said without preamble. "Why hasn't it been updated?" The man blinked. "Sir, it's functional." "Functional isn't sufficient. Install new heaters. Replace the furniture. Have it done by the end of the week." "Of course, Mr. Ashborne." Fletcher turned back to his computer screen, dismissing him. By Wednesday, whispers spread through the staff. The lounge had been transformed overnight. New couches, a functioning coffee machine, warmth that actually reached the corners. No one knew why. Fletcher Ashborne didn't explain his decisions, and no one dared ask. On Thursday, the head housekeeper approached him hesitantly. "Mr. Ashborne, there's been a scheduling error. Sofia Marin has been assigned back-to-back night shifts for 3 weeks straight." Fletcher's jaw tightened. "Fix it." "Sir, adjust the rotation. No one works nights more than twice a week. Make it retroactive." The housekeeper nodded slowly, confused but compliant. That same afternoon, payroll deposited Christmas bonuses into staff accounts, larger than usual with no explanation attached. Sofia stared at her phone screen in the supply closet, eyes wide, breath catching. She checked the amount 3 times, certain it was a mistake. It wasn't. She pressed her hand to her mouth, blinking back tears she couldn't afford to shed in the middle of her shift. Fletcher watched from the third-floor window as she exited the estate that evening, her steps a little lighter, her shoulders a fraction less burdened. Something twisted in his chest. Unfamiliar, uncomfortable, undeniable. Friday brought an unexpected collision. Fletcher was crossing through the back corridor, unusual for him, but he'd been walking the estate more often lately, restless in ways he didn't understand. Near the service entrance, something small and pink caught his eye. An inhaler. He bent down, picked it up. Faded handwriting on the side, Leah M. His heart stopped. He looked up just as Sofia came running back through the entrance, panic etched across her face, eyes scanning the ground desperately. "Miss Marin," he called. She froze, turned. Her eyes widened in shock because Fletcher Ashborne never spoke directly to the cleaning staff, never acknowledged them beyond a distant nod. He held out the inhaler. Relief flooded her expression so completely it was almost painful to witness. She hurried forward, hands trembling as she took it from him. "Thank you, sir. I'm so sorry. My daughter, she forgot it this morning. She needs it tonight. I should have checked before I left. I'm sorry." "You don't need to apologize," Fletcher said quietly. The words surprised them both. Sofia blinked, unsure how to respond. For a moment, they stood in the dim hallway, the inhaler between them like a fragile bridge connecting 2 completely different worlds. "Is she all right?" Fletcher asked, the question awkward on his tongue. "She will be," Sofia said softly. "Thank you. Really?" She turned to leave, then hesitated, glancing back. "Sir, the bonus and the schedule change, was that?" Fletcher's expression remained unreadable. "The estate values its staff. That's all." Sofia nodded slowly, though something in her eyes suggested she didn't quite believe him. She left without another word. Fletcher stood alone in the corridor, staring at his empty hands. That night, he sat in the grand dining hall, a table built for 12, occupied by 1. The pink letter lay beside his untouched plate. The memory of Sofia's trembling hands holding her daughter's inhaler played on loop in his mind. He had built this estate to be a fortress, a place where nothing unexpected could enter, where emotions were as controlled as the temperature. But a 6-year-old's letter had breached every wall. Fletcher leaned back in his chair, staring at the chandelier overhead, and allowed himself to admit something he hadn't in years. He was lonely, profoundly, achingly lonely. And for the first time, the silence felt unbearable. Over the next few days, Fletcher began asking questions, carefully, indirectly. "How long has Miss Marin worked here? Does she have family in the city? Her daughter, Does she attend school nearby? His assistant answered without suspicion. Fletcher was thorough in all things. This seemed no different. But it was different. He started noticing the small things, the way Sofia limped slightly after long shifts, the way her hands trembled when she carried too many supplies at once, the way she checked her phone obsessively, always anxious, always waiting for bad news, and the way she left every day at exactly 4:30, no exceptions, no delays. She was racing home to Leah. Fletcher understood that kind of devotion. His own mother had worked herself to exhaustion trying to raise him after his father's death. He remembered watching her collapse into bed fully clothed, too tired to even cry. He had sworn he would never let anyone suffer like that again. And yet here he was, employing a woman who was doing exactly the same thing. On Monday morning, everything changed. Fletcher was reviewing contracts in his office when he saw Sofia rush past his window, phone pressed to her ear, face drained of color. He stood, walked to the door, watched as she grabbed her coat, hands shaking so badly she could barely button it. "Miss Marin," he called. She turned, eyes red, voice breaking. "I'm sorry, sir, I have to leave. My daughter, she's sick. The school called. I have to go." Fletcher didn't hesitate. "I'll drive you." Sofia stared at him, stunned. "What? You're in no condition to take the bus. I'll drive you." "Sir, I can't." "You can." His voice was firm, but not unkind. "And you will." For a moment, Sofia looked like she might argue. Then her phone buzzed again, another message from the school, and all her resistance crumbled. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." Fletcher grabbed his keys, not as a billionaire, not as a boss, but as someone who, for the first time in years, genuinely cared what happened next. The cold wave hit Crescent City on a Wednesday night, dropping temperatures so low that frost formed on the insides of windows. The tiny apartment above the laundromat became an ice box, despite the struggling space heater rattling in the corner. Leah's breathing had been getting worse all week. Sofia knew the signs. The shallow inhales, the way Leah's chest rose and fell too quickly, like her lungs were fighting for every breath. The soft wheeze that turned into a whistle, then a gasp. The inhaler was nearly empty. Sofia had been rationing it, 2 puffs in the morning, 2 at night, praying it would last until payday. But winter didn't care about payday, and neither did asthma. By 9 o'clock, Leah was curled on the bed, lips tinged faintly blue, breathing in short, desperate bursts. Sofia sat beside her, hand on her daughter's chest, feeling each labored breath like a knife twisting deeper. "Mommy," Leah whispered, voice barely audible. "I can't breathe good." "I know, baby, I know." Sofia's voice was steady, but her hands shook as she administered the last dose from the inhaler. "Just try to stay calm, slow breaths, in and out. Can you do that for me?" Leah nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Sofia glanced at her phone. An ambulance would cost hundreds, maybe thousands she didn't have. The emergency room would demand payment she couldn't give. But if Leah's breathing got worse, she couldn't think about that. She pulled Leah into her lap, rocking gently, whispering soft reassurances even as panic clawed at her throat. By 10 o'clock, Leah's lips were darker, her breathing more erratic. Sofia's hands trembled as she picked up her phone. She scrolled through her contacts, neighbors who wouldn't answer, clinics that were closed, numbers she'd called before that led nowhere. Then she stopped. Fletcher Ashborne. His number was listed in the estate's emergency contact sheet given to all staff. She had never used it, never imagined she would. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She couldn't. She shouldn't. He was her employer, a billionaire, a man who lived in a different world entirely. But Leah gasped again, small body shuddering, and Sofia pressed call before she could stop herself. It rang twice. "Miss Marin?" Fletcher's voice was immediate, alert. "I'm sorry," Sofia choked out, voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know who else to call. It's Leah. She can't breathe. I don't know what to do." "Where are you?" "Home. Above the laundromat on 5th and—" "I know where you are. I'm coming. Keep her calm. I'll be there in 5 minutes." The line went dead. Sofia stared at her phone, heart pounding. He was coming. 4 minutes later, she heard footsteps pounding up the stairwell. The door flew open. Fletcher, coat half-buttoned, hair disheveled, eyes sharp and focused. He crossed the room in 3 strides, kneeling beside the bed where Leah lay, gasping. "Leah," he said gently, voice calm and steady. "My name is Fletcher. I'm going to help you, okay?" Leah's wide, frightened eyes met his. She nodded weakly. Fletcher scooped her into his arms with practiced ease, wrapping his coat around her small frame. "We're going to the hospital. You're going to be fine." Sofia grabbed her purse, hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Fletcher glanced at her. "Stay close. I've got her." They moved quickly. Fletcher carried Leah down the stairs, speaking softly the entire time, telling her about the snow outside, about how brave she was, about how everything was going to be okay. His voice was a lifeline, and Leah clung to it, small fingers gripping his collar. In the car, Fletcher drove with controlled urgency, one hand on the wheel, the other reaching back to rest on Leah's knee. Sofia sat in the back with her daughter's head in her lap, tears streaming silently down her face. "She's going to be okay," Fletcher said, eyes meeting Sofia's in the rearview mirror. "I promise." Sofia nodded, unable to speak. At the hospital, Fletcher didn't wait for paperwork. He carried Leah straight through the emergency entrance, voice sharp and commanding. "She's in respiratory distress. Asthma. She needs a nebulizer now." Nurses moved immediately. Within minutes, Leah was in a bed, mask over her face, medicated mist filling her lungs. Her breathing began to slow, deepen, stabilize. Sofia collapsed into the chair beside her, head in her hands, shoulders shaking. Fletcher stood on the other side of the bed, hands in his pockets, watching Leah's small chest rise and fall with increasing ease. The doctor arrived, checked vitals, adjusted the treatment. "She'll be okay. We'll monitor her overnight, but she's responding well." Sofia whispered a broken thank you to no one and everyone. Hours passed. The hospital room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of monitors. Leah slept peacefully now, oxygen mask replaced with a nasal cannula, her breathing steady and calm. Sofia sat on one side of the bed, head resting on folded arms, exhausted beyond measure. Fletcher sat on the other side, back straight, eyes fixed on Leah's face. Neither of them meant to fall asleep. But somewhere between midnight and dawn, they both did. 2 people from completely different worlds, sitting vigil over a little girl who had brought them together with a letter meant for Santa. Leah woke just before sunrise. Her eyes fluttered open, adjusting to the pale light filtering through the hospital blinds. She turned her head slowly, first to the left, her mother asleep, hand resting on the bed near hers. Then to the right, a man she didn't know, tall, dark-haired, sleeping upright in an uncomfortable chair, coat still on. Leah blinked. Then she smiled. She reached out with both hands, one for her mother, one for the stranger, and whispered, voice soft but certain, "Santa heard me." Her small fingers curled around both of theirs. Sofia stirred first, eyes opening slowly. She saw Leah awake, breathing easily, and burst into quiet tears of relief. Fletcher woke a moment later, disoriented. Then he saw Leah looking at him, smiling, holding his hand. Something inside him cracked wide open. Not pity, not obligation. Something real. An hour later, the doctors cleared Leah for discharge with a new inhaler, prescriptions, and instructions for follow-up care. Fletcher handled everything: payments, paperwork, insurance coordination, without a word of discussion. Sofia tried to protest. He silenced her with a look. "Let me do this," he said quietly. She nodded, too overwhelmed to argue. He drove them home as dawn broke over the city, painting the snow-covered streets in soft gold. Leah sat in the back seat, wrapped in Fletcher's coat, humming softly to herself. When they arrived at the apartment, Sofia turned to him, eyes red but grateful. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to—" "You don't have to," Fletcher said. "Just take care of her, and yourself." Sofia nodded, voice failing her. She carried Leah inside, glancing back once before the door closed. Fletcher sat in his car for a long moment, staring at the building. Then he drove home, back to the empty estate, the silent halls, the untouched dining table. But this time, the silence felt different. For the first time in years, Fletcher Ashborne felt something he thought he'd lost forever: purpose. Something fundamental shifted in Fletcher Ashborne after that hospital night. The walls he had spent years building didn't crumble all at once. They eroded slowly, deliberately, like snow melting under unexpected sunlight. Monday morning, he called Sofia into his office. She arrived nervously, hands clasped, eyes uncertain. "Miss Marin," Fletcher began, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "Please, sit." She did, perched on the edge like she might need to flee at any moment. "I've reviewed the staff scheduling protocols," he continued, tone professional but not cold. "They're inefficient. I'm implementing flexible hours for employees with dependents. You'll have the option to work around Leah's school schedule. No night shifts unless you choose them." Sofia blinked. "Sir, It's not charity," Fletcher said firmly. "It's good management. Exhausted employees make mistakes. I'm simply optimizing productivity." But the way he said it, the slight softness around his eyes, told a different story. "Thank you," Sofia whispered. Fletcher nodded once, already turning back to his computer. "That's all." Sofia stood, hesitated at the door. "Mr. Ashborne?" He looked up. "You didn't have to do any of this. The hospital, the medicine, now this. You didn't have to." Fletcher met her gaze steadily. "I know." She left quietly, but not before he saw the smallest smile touch her lips. Over the following weeks, changes rippled through Ashborne Estate like stones dropped in still water. A staff wellness program appeared. Subsidized health care, mental health resources, child care assistance. Fletcher attended the announcement meeting himself, standing at the back, watching his employees' reactions with something that almost resembled satisfaction. He began walking the staff corridors more frequently, learning names, asking questions, not with the detached curiosity of an employer conducting evaluations, but with genuine interest. And he arranged for a pediatric specialist to see Leah, fully covered, no questions asked. When Sofia tried to refuse, Fletcher simply said, "It's already scheduled. Don't waste the appointment." She went. Leah's asthma management improved dramatically. New medication, a better inhaler, an action plan Sofia could actually follow without choosing between medicine and groceries. For the first time in years, Sofia felt like she could breathe too. She began to change. Subtle shifts at first, shoulders a little straighter, smiles that reached her eyes, laughter that didn't sound borrowed from someone else's life. She started speaking up in staff meetings, suggesting improvements, reclaiming pieces of herself she'd buried under exhaustion and survival. And she began to trust Fletcher, not blindly, not desperately, but with the quiet certainty of someone who had tested the ground and found it solid. December 23rd arrived with fresh snow and the scent of pine drifting through the estate's halls. Sofia found an envelope on her workstation that afternoon. Cream-colored, heavyweight paper, her name written in elegant script across the front. She opened it carefully. "Miss Marin and Leah, you are cordially invited to Christmas Eve dinner at Ashborne Estate, 7 p.m., main dining hall. No gifts necessary, only your company. Fletcher Ashborne. Tucked inside was a second sheet of paper. Sofia unfolded it, and her breath caught. It was Leah's drawing, the one from the letter. 3 stick figures, mother, daughter, and the dotted outline that had once been empty. But now, the dotted lines were gone. In their place stood a solid figure, carefully drawn in Fletcher's own hand, tall, smiling, holding both their hands. Sofia pressed the paper to her chest, tears blurring her vision. Christmas Eve arrived wrapped in silence and snow. Sofia dressed Leah in her best dress, a soft blue hand-me-down that Leah loved because it twirled. Sofia wore a simple black dress she'd owned for years, but rarely had occasion to wear. They arrived at 7 sharp. Fletcher met them at the entrance himself. No butler, no formality. He wore a sweater instead of a suit, and Sofia almost didn't recognize him. He looked softer, human. "Welcome," he said quietly, eyes warm. The dining hall had been transformed. No grand table set for 12. Instead, a small round table near the fireplace, set for 3. Candles flickered. Garlands of pine and holly draped the mantel. Soft music played from somewhere unseen. It felt like a home. Dinner was simple. Roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, vegetables, warm bread. Nothing extravagant. Nothing meant to impress. Just food. Shared. Leah chattered endlessly, telling Fletcher about school, about her favorite Christmas songs, about the snow fort she wanted to build. Fletcher listened to every word, asking questions, laughing at her jokes, treating her observations like they mattered. Because to him, they did. Sofia watched them, heart swelling with something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. After dinner, Leah squirmed in her chair, eyes bright. "Mr. Fletcher, I made you something." She pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket and handed it to him shyly. Fletcher opened it carefully. Another letter. "Dear Santa, I already got my gift. Can I keep him forever?" "Love." Leah Fletcher's throat tightened. He looked at Leah, then at Sofia, who had tears streaming silently down her face. "I'd like that very much," he said, voice rough. Leah beamed. Later, as the evening wound down, Fletcher offered to walk them home. Sofia accepted without hesitation. They moved through the quiet streets, snow falling in soft, lazy flakes. Leah skipped ahead, arms outstretched, trying to catch snowflakes on her tongue. Sofia and Fletcher walked side by side, comfortable in the silence. Finally, Sofia spoke, voice low. "If I never needed help again, would you still stay?" Fletcher didn't hesitate. "Yes." She looked at him, searching his face. "Because I don't stay where I'm needed," he continued, meeting her gaze steadily. "I stay where I'm wanted." Sofia's breath hitched. She nodded slowly, a small smile breaking through. Ahead of them, Leah spun around, giggling, cheeks flushed pink from the cold. "Is Mr. Fletcher my dad now?" she called out, voice bright with innocent certainty. Fletcher and Sofia stopped walking. They looked at each other, surprised laughter bubbling up between them. Awkward, genuine, alive. They didn't answer, but they didn't disagree. Leah took that as confirmation and skipped onward, humming jingle bells into the snowy night. Fletcher and Sofia followed side by side, fingers brushing once, then twice, then finally intertwining. Above them, the stars emerged between clouds, silent witnesses to a wish that had somehow, impossibly, come true. Not through magic, but through something stronger. Love that chose to stay.
Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share your thoughts. Your engagement helps these stories reach more people. Let me know where you're watching from, and I'll see you in the next video.